and welcome everyone to this rapid fire. Finally, we have Wasim Halani here with us in this episode. Welcome, Washal. How are you?
Thank you, Neelu. Thanks a lot. Doing great. It's great to be on this rapid fire session with you.
So finally, we have Washal here. I think I would have tons of questions in the rapid fire, but not to make you uncomfortable. Let me start with some quick ones.
Yes.
One thing that I would definitely love for our listeners to have from you is, Wasim, you have had an extensive experience in social engineering and physical pen testing and other things, which are the most exciting parts of being in security. Would you have any of your adventures, especially any scary adventures from these engagements that you would like to share? Like you may not be laughing at it earlier, but now on hindsight, which makes you laugh?
Yeah, I would say all my social engineering, I could say, adventures were scary for me. I don't know, many people might not be aware, but my nature is a very introvert nature, right? I am not a person who kind of like gels and talks very freely. So social engineering does not really come by itself to me. But luckily, I've had opportunities in my career, and they have taught me a lot of things. Very few of these incidents I remember vividly that were like nerve-cracking for me. And one specific incident, which if I recollect, you were also involved. Right? You might recollect this, but I remember we had gone for an customer site visit, right? And we had gone with our own pretext on how we want to enter the premise and effectively visit the data center and visit their facility to check out, gather any data that we could.
With the fake
At
eye
that point of-
cards.
Yeah, fake iCards and everything that we had created. At that point of time, it was still early stage for me as I was growing in this domain of social engineering. And the most difficult part, or you could say nerve-wracking piece, came up when the security guard caught up and said, "Okay, I don't recognize you guys. Where are you guys coming from?" We told him some X, Y, Z reason. He said, "Let me check." So that when he said, "Let me check," I was like, "Oh my God, now what do we do?" And he said, "We don't allow anyone to just simply visit and all." So I told him, "I don't know what clicked, but we said, okay, go ahead and call your supervisor. We'll talk to him, right? Because this is a surprise audit, and if you don't allow us, we will simply mention a negative remark on your thing audit." So he got pushed back a little, and effectively he took us to this thing control room that they had for security guards over there, and
Oh
then
God,
whatever
that
security.
was scary. I think there was a camera there as well. If
Yes.
I remember now, where we were not looking at the camera.
Correct. So he called him up, and then the supervisor, he spoke to supervisor and said, "Okay, no, this is that," and finally he gave me the phone, and then he telling me to talk to the supervisor and explain who you are. I was like, "Oh my God, what do I tell over here?" Because uh, trying to fool somebody on the ground level is different than trying to fool a supervisor who's much more experienced in all of these elements, right? And then the only thing that helped over there was to be confident in your answers, because I knew if we failed at that time, okay, it is going to be a big problem, because uh, it's not something normal that you try to breach in a bank facility and try to talk and breach over there. It's mostly expected that these are thieves and robbers. Nobody understands the concept at their level of what social engineering exercise is, right? While the CISO had approved it, the security guard who simply take us as
Was
frauds
not aware,
would have
yeah.
put us inside or beaten us
Jail.
blue and black,
I could
right?
see jail at that time.
Yeah. In fact, when you mentioned jail, there's another incident. So, by the way, just to complete that piece, right? We were lucky enough that we spoke to that supervisor, and this to the audience. We spoke to the supervisor, and effectively we convinced him that we were genuinely coming from a authorized entity. But since he did not know about it and he was not informed beforehand, he cannot allow us to visit the premise and check out on a few things that we had requested. So he said, "I'll go back. I'll check with my authorities, and then you can come back tomorrow." So they did not arrest us, they did not detain us or anything. They simply told us, "Go back today, we'll allow you tomorrow." We basically ran from there, and we said, "I'm not coming back over here again unless required." But it at least proved that their security was alert, right? Because there was another, like I was saying, like with the jail time thing, there was another scenario where we visited a site. We visited their site 3 days continuously, and with pretexts and whatnot, and prepared over them. Nobody recognized us, right? Our bad luck was that the fourth day that we had gone there, The head supervisor was sitting at the reception desk, whom we had kind of like not interacted previously. When we showed him the fake letter with the fake signature and everything, he got suspicious. He told us, "Wait in the waiting room. I'll bring you in some time." He simply went, and he recognized that the signature that we had shown was fake, right? And whomever we were impersonating at that point of time, he literally told us, "Okay, sit in the room. I'll come back." He had gone to one of the senior cybersecurity head. Actually, lucky for us, that person was the person who had contacted us and spoke that, "Okay, this is something that has happened. What do I do over here?" That person told that, "Okay, no, I'll talk." The customer that the client at that time came and said, "They said you guys are busted now. It was good that person came to me, or you guys would have landed up directly in jail if we had gone to somebody else." So when I heard the jail time, I was like, "Oh my God, this is risky business. I don't know what I'm doing over here. It's crazy." But
By
yeah,
the way,
in hindsight, it was fun. It was a great learning experience because then you realize how human interactions work, right? You end up realizing that you can, and this is relevant very much today, right? Cybersecurity at a personal level has become important because this is not something that is remote now. It's not something far away from people. You keep getting these calls on a daily basis. People confuse you, they impersonate with AI coming into the picture. This becomes all the more complicated. You're not able to recognize whose voice is on the other end. They will defraud you with asking for OTPs and doing XYZ or saying that I need some money emergent and I'm in an emergency and stuff like that. So, no, having experienced that myself and having undergone that kind of a project at that point in time has now made me very, you could say, precautious or you could say paranoid about whenever I receive a call asking for some details. I ask them 10 different things. And my immediate thought is, why do you ask so much questions? Why do you ask so many questions? I said, no, I have done this. I know what can be done.
but on a hindsight, I wonder if we had AI, then I think things would have been also easier for us when
Probably,
we
yes. Yes.
were calling each and every customer and sorry, employee, and then looking to do
Employees,
that.
yes.
But yeah, and some of these engagements. So for the just for the listeners to know, I think we are just talking about the scary adventures, but there have been many successful ones where
Yes.
you just tend to remember the scary ones a little more because they touch you in a different way. But these are also some of the better clients. So. This is also one of the engagements that we had where we learned dumpster diving. So we were all going around and we had not found anything. We were inside, and there were a bunch of passwords though that we were able to
Yes.
figure out. But that was not good enough when we were learning from Wasim, essentially. And being the teacher he is, he asked us, have you checked the dumpster? And we're like, okay, isn't that just for the books?
Yes. That,
And
yeah, it
we
sounds like
literally
theory.
went there.
Yeah, it sounds like theory, but then you realize that, okay, wow, the theory also is useful in practice, right?
Yeah, yeah. So we went and we looked into the dumpster. We actually got all of that stuff, and it was definitely surprising. But there's a lot of value. The data that you are searching, often in a database, which you'll have to go through, you might get it in the dumpster. There were printouts of financial numbers of different things that we found, and it was eye-opening that day. But it was also thanks to you, Wasim.
You guys were part of the team and it was fun, I would say. That you remind me of those days. It was great, great fun and excitement.
Yeah, yeah,
It was another game altogether, right? From where I am today.
yeah. It was different. It was, I guess, a lot more fun. Okay, so talking of those days, I think those days you were also I know most of us were in the IC roles. We were on the offensive side, which naturally makes you very introvert. And like you mentioned, right, you have been an introvertish person. But recently, I was seeing how much things have changed in the last decade or so, and then you've evolved as a leader yourself. You're getting awards and awards of being a leader, and being a leader means that you have to be out there, you have to be an extrovert. So how was your journey, and given that many of us are now also moving from and growing from individual roles to becoming security leaders, what's your message to the rest of us?
It's a good question, but a very difficult one to answer because every person's experience is different, right? Every person's nature and needs and career aspirations are different. Um, the first point I'd like to certainly mention, it's not like you're simply managing people, right? And there are two steps between this IC to a leadership role. You go from an IC to a lead and then to a manager where you're managing people essentially, and then you go to a leadership position. So that two hops essentially from there to from an IC, you kind of like judge your own self that are you ready for that next hop, right? The transition from IC to leadership has been eye-opening for me, I would say, and I'm still learning. I wouldn't say I'm a leader per se, but I'm still learning a lot of these ropes, thanks to peer people in my circle who have guided, mentored, and taught me all of these aspects, right? Because if you ask me, it's a lonely world at the top, right? And this is something I was reading a
Yeah.
while back, right? One of the CEOs says that I'm the most loneliest person in the organization because I have nobody to talk to about my issues. So you usually see these top level CEOs, they usually hire, let's say, exec coaches that you would call them, the exec coaches. So they're able to talk over there and understand and learn from them because nobody teaches them how to be a CEO, that
Yeah, yeah.
especially the entrepreneurs and the first time CEOs. You don't have anyone as a teacher. And this is true for any role, right? As you grow higher up, you need to source out mentors. You need to source out people you look up to and can reach out to them and learn from them. Again, these people themselves are very busy. They have a lot more tasks. So you need to prove to them why should they invest their time in you and train you,
Hmm.
right? It's not everyone's cup of tea. IC is not a bad role per se, if you ask me, right? There are I have been thinking that should I be pursuing IC or should I be pursuing leadership for a very long time. It's something it has its own charm. And IC, you do your technical stuff. If you want, you can deep dive as deep as you want, right? You can do into research and all. Leadership has a different, you could say, ball game altogether. You are doing both managing people, managing processes, the technology, and also you are at some level hands-on. You need to be hands-on and you need to be
Hmm.
a bit of a practitioner. Because if you lose touch on your technical side of things, you will not be able to inspire confidence in your team,
Yeah,
right?
and
The team will
anybody
stop
will
looking up to
take you
you.
for a ride in that case as
Exactly.
well. Yeah.
Yeah. And the team will not look up to you because uh, essentially who's inspiration? Somebody who has fought the battles, right? They know the challenges and they are able to emphasize with the team. The team will appreciate you more. And anyone looking to move into leadership, it's not just simply saying that, okay, now I will no longer touch any technology or any code or anything, right? At any point you need to be open to rolling up your sleeves and
Hmm.
jumping in with the team to solve the
Right.
problem, right? That's where you kind of like effectively are leading the team. Otherwise you're just standing at the back and dictating instructions. That doesn't work out, and the team is just, they might end up solving it, but they will no longer consider you a leader. They'll just consider you a manager. So like I
Hmm.
said, there are hops reaching that level, and it's a journey that you need to kind of, and it never stops. You learn to be a leader, you learn to be a better leader, and then you learn to be a great leader, right? So that journey is part of the game. It's part of the career for anyone, right? And I think it's a good role for anyone looking to move into a leadership position, right? Uh, it comes naturally to some people. For some others, they have to strive hard. But yes, for me personally, it's been learning a lot, right? And I've been fortunate, like I said, I have had great leaders around me to learn from. And I think probably that's what motivated me to move into that direction.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I would just say one thing. I think from time to time to find your own dumpster, there'll be nobody to tell you, look here, look there, and do this and do that. So,
Certainly, yes.
it's rightly
You
said.
have to, it's a lonely journey, like I said. You have to carve out your own path. You will find mentors, you will find people who will guide you. The end of the day, the decision lies with you as to what path you take.
Cool, but apart from this transition, you have had some other transition as well. Like we were just talking about, it was a purely offensive space, and then you moved to a defensive area. I think that's true for many of us. But what's your favorite? Like, is there a favorite security domain that you like to work in?
Probably it will be considered a very biased answer, but right now my favorite is threat detection, right? But yes, I have tasted all of these domains, right? And I think a majority of the domains in cybersecurity, be it BAPT, technical, mobile, AppSec, and whatnot, right? Social engineering, red team, and every domain has its own pros and cons. Every domain has its own challenges. None of these domains are just a cakewalk. right?
Mm.
Wherever it's a cakewalk, companies have come and productized the entire service. Then you no
Yeah,
longer
yeah,
you have to evolve from there on. But within each domain also, there are some things that cannot be productized. There requires human element, right? And each of them have their own charm. So it'll be wrong for me to just say that, okay, this is one awesome domain. No. But yes, my preference right now in my career is threat detection. I find it very challenging because it's a problem that's been there for a while, but it's not something that we have learned to solve so easily, right?
yeah.
And I've seen great minds, especially in the overall blue team side of things in cybersecurity, right? There are great minds who have done awesome work, and it's very inspiring and beautiful to see how their mind functions, right? What strategies they come up with, what ideas they come up with, and you kind of like get inspired. Wow, I have so much to learn from them. And within the same domain, threat detection, there are thought leaders that you see, and you kind of think, okay, I have too much more to learn and go on this path. So, and the challenges are not yet solved, right? So that's what keep me going right now. And I think I would say um, this is one of the reasons I'm still in this domain of overall cybersecurity, but right now focusing for the last 5, 6 years in threat detection specifically. I think moved from pure offensive to threat hunting and then into detection engineering, intel, and all that stuff, right? The full gamut over there. These are all brothers and sisters in domains at the end.
Yeah.
Right? It's not a clear-cut demarcation line that you can only do this much. You need to be able to understand how attacks work so that you are good to understand how detections can be built. Without
Mm.
that strong foundation that I got in my earlier parts of my career, I would never have understood all of these elements of detection engineering.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a huge benefit that you get because you've seen that, you've done that, you've been there, so you know what how attackers might think. Although they get creative every day, so that's another journey. But what are your thoughts since you're talking about great leaders and great teams? That's also one of the ideas of Breakpoint, that we are trying to bring the best of them to this podcast. What are your thoughts on AI? I know we have not touched upon it in the main episode, but this is too exciting to leave it at that. What is your idea of having AI in general in cybersecurity and maybe in detection engineering?
Yeah. So there are two parts to AI, right? One is the AI with the hype, and then one is the real AI.
Yeah.
Okay. The hype is this is where we need to kind of like split things up, right? Claims are made, marketing claims, and I wouldn't blame them, right? Everyone wants to sell their product. So there is a hype element of AI. Those we need to keep aside, right? Those are
Mm-hmm.
not problems that are useful, or some of them are gimmicky in nature, the way people are using AI in cybersecurity. Like nobody questions their SIEM or their EDR platform. Tell me how many alerts do I have today? What nobody's going to do a conversational, voice conversational based thing, NLP based or questioning them, right? But then there are some very good AI use cases in cybersecurity and specifically in threat detection that people have come up with, right? They help make the process more efficient. They kind of like summarize the entire incident, build a narrative. So what you have with probably OpenAI's ChatGPT, right? It essentially is very good at summarization of very large text into a very brief format. And companies have used that to kind of like summarize very large incidents with just critical information so that you're not taking up too much time trying to triage the incident. Plus, the analyst is able to compress that entire knowledge into a brief text, right? So there are some very good use cases. Plus, I have seen use cases of where AI is used to kind of like identify very rare based detections. While it's a mix of maths and traditional statistics, right? But these are areas that should be focused on with AI, right? You don't, okay, there is one very clear demarcation. Endpoint security has an advantage in terms of using machine learning, in terms of using AI, because the industry for endpoints has a very large sample set of good and bad,
Hmm.
you could say malwares and binaries. And
Hmm.
the antivirus industry has done a very good job over there. That's why you see that AI is more effectively used, or you could say ML is more effectively used
Effectively
over there
used.
in the endpoint industry, because it's well known, it's well established, and they have learned from their past. Whereas in logs-based detection, right, it's not an easy problem to solve because you don't effectively have demarcation between good logs and bad logs. We need to create a lab, and many of these are very varied. You can change, like if I want to detect lateral movement using AI, you can't really just simply say that, okay, any logs and then detect that this is lateral movement. Training that on a very large sample set of logs is a challenge. Creating that entire data set is a big challenge. And that's where AI will certainly help us. We have, personally for me, when I'm exploring AI, right, I have been able to use AI to generate sample logs. I've been able to use AI to understand the logs themselves, because sometimes vendor documentation is not very good in explaining things, right? I've used AI to even have prototype detections created, right? Using detection as code format, YAML format. So there are certainly cases where generative AI has helped, right? Because the knowledge exists, right? But there are areas of cybersecurity where it's still not, you could say, robust enough. And it's an evolving field. It's a good field, and we need to be able to take AI and bring it into cybersecurity, but not in the marketing or the gimmicky way, right? Otherwise, that just simply, could say, fails to give credibility to what AI can achieve, help us achieve. So keep the marketing piece aside, I would say, and that will happen. Nobody is going to say that that will not happen. That will happen because that's how the industry grows. You have science fiction at the beginning, and then you have people build those science fiction elements, like how the tech world usually works. So let that science fiction element of AI be there in cybersecurity. That yes, we can do X, Y, and Z. You have a silver bullet, and then probably maybe within a few years we reach that level where what was claimed initially in the marketing piece is able to deliver. Companies have made large claims. Not everyone has succeeded in those claims in terms of AI, but AI is a very good complementary skill, or you could say complementary tool to existing cybersecurity analysts, be it within SOC, be it within AppSec, be it within threat detection, threat intel. Everywhere you can have air flavors or sprinkles of AI added, and that boosts up the entire team's efficiency and performance. So yes, it has its value, but abusing it is not the right way to use it.
At your own cost. Yeah, I think keeping that aside, there are many practical use cases, the ones that you were talking about, that can be a very good starting point while we aim higher for more meaningful outcomes, meaningful patterns that we can derive from that in future. But yeah, I think so. That's where I would end the rapid fire for us today. But thanks a lot for sharing all of that and your ideas on AI and threat detection. Thanks a lot for being here, Wasim.
Thanks a lot, Neetu. Great chatting.
See you everyone in the next episode. Until then, bye bye.